Okay, so everybody's ready. Thank you everyone for joining us for our second weightlifting webinar. And again, for those of you who didn't get the chance to come to our push-up one, like Matt said, my name is Nava. I'm here with Tina today, and we're both resident physiotherapists at Foundation Physiotherapy at the Front Street location.
Yes.
So a little bit about us, again, before we get started. I was born and raised in Vancouver and then moved to Toronto to complete my master's here at U of T, and then ended up deciding to stay. I grew up doing competitive figure skating, so pursuing a career in the health and fitness industry has always been of interest to me. And I've been weightlifting for a little over 5 years right now, and I also have experience working as a personal trainer. A little fun fact about me is that when I was younger, I actually used to hate ice cream, and sometimes my mom used to try to force me to eat it. And now I have about 1 tub of Haagen-Dazs each week.
Nice, Nava. Okay, I'm Tina Humayuni. I'm also a resident physiotherapist. I graduated with Nava actually to get my Master's of Science in Physical Therapy at the University of Toronto. I got my Bachelor of Medical Science at Western University. In terms of my weightlifting background, I have general weightlifting for about 8 years total. I dipped my feet a little bit in powerlifting, and then I found Olympic weightlifting and I fell in love with the sport, and I've been doing that for about 3.5 years. In terms of fun fact about myself, I'm kind of obsessed with my dog Milo, as you can see in this picture here. And that's probably about it because I have no life besides doing that in this COVID climate.
Better than eating ice cream all day, Tina. Okay, so this is a quick overview of today's session. We're going to review the steps to mastering the pull-up, so you can either get your first pull-up or break any plateaus that you may have, all while preventing any injuries down the road. And this will also include some mobility tips to help optimize your technique, some regressions, as well as an example progression routine that you can implement. So again, as we mentioned in the previous webinar, there are 5 fundamental movement patterns, and today we'll be covering the pull pattern. So why would you even want to do pull-ups in the first place? First off, it's a very low maintenance exercise in the sense that all you would need is essentially a pull-up bar, which you can easily buy online from Amazon. You can also perform any type of pull exercise, which will promote the strength and endurance of your postural muscles. So in general, I do find that people do more push exercises and are more push focused, whereas in an ideal world, we would like to have at least a 50-50 balance, if not even a little bit more pulling. And lastly, the pull-up has great carryover to several other lifts at the gym, such as your deadlift, overhead squats, or cleans, for instance. Okay, so look at all the muscles working when you're doing the pull-up. So you'll definitely get the most bang for your buck doing this exercise because it targets so many different muscle groups, although these may vary slightly based on the different variations that you choose to perform. In general, the pull-up targets the back muscles like your lats and your traps, your core, your arm muscles like your biceps, and several forearm muscles that are required for a strong grip, and shoulders. So honestly, almost every single body part. And over the next few slides now, I'll be going over the different steps to mastering the conventional pull-up. And as a disclaimer, these are general recommendations. This may change if you're performing a different variation or even just based on your unique anatomy. So let's get started. Performing a good quality pull-up, obviously we'll start off with the basic starting position. So make sure that you establish a good grip with your hands slightly wider than shoulder width. For the pull-up, you'll have an overhand grip, which basically means that your palms are facing away from you. And in general, if your hands are too narrow, especially for beginners, this may place a bit more load and stress on your smaller forearm muscles, which may not be able to handle that load as well as your larger forearm muscles when you have a slightly wider grip, okay? And next up is neck position. So I tend to see this a lot in either beginners or in individuals who are trying to kind of pull out the last few reps of their set. What we tend to see is this goose neck, which is essentially when you crank your neck backward, so your eyes are looking up at the ceiling. Some people tend to end up in this neck position in an attempt to kind of get more strength, but this can place a little bit more stress in your neck joints and muscle and put you at an increased risk for injury. So try to always keep your neck in line with the rest of your spine, like the image on the right-hand side. Okay. Another common mistake that we see, and I am definitely guilty of this one, is moving into a upper back rounding position when we reach the top part of the pull-up. So ideally, we want to keep our mid-back straight, since this will put our shoulder blades in a better position to allow our shoulder stabilizing muscles to work better. So the next time you try doing pull-ups, think about opening up your chest as it reaches the top of the bar and squeezing your shoulder blades down and together. A helpful cue to initiate the pull can be to thinking about bringing the bar to your chest rather than bringing yourself towards the bar. Okay, so let's take a quick look at this video first. And while you're watching it, I want you guys to tell me, what is one mistake that you notice in this video with the pull-up? Put your answers in the chat box. This one might be a little bit tricky to find, but hopefully some of you guys will get it. Hint, it's in the neck area. Come on, guys, I believe in you.
That one's tough. You guys, that camera angle's tough. Is that one of the goose ones? Goose neck again?
Okay, I'll give this one away. So over here, there we go, Carlos, traps. So essentially, we'll talk about this in the next slide. There we go. So look at that. Boom, all that neck action going on here. Perfect. Okay, so we can head back to the slide. Essentially what's going on is Tina is shrugging a bit too much over there. So when we are doing the pull-up and we're moving kind of from that very bottom position when our arms are straight to initiate the movement, try your best to bring your shoulder blades down first. So this will engage more of your mid-back muscles rather than using too much of your neck muscles over here. And again, I will tend to do this a lot because I'm weaker in my back muscles. So I compensate by using my neck. And again, in the second half of the webinar, Tina will be going over some regressions just to help make the pull-up a bit easier so you don't have these compensations kind of popping up, okay? And then kind of related to this is your shoulder blade positioning. So when you are at the very bottom part of the pull-up, you still want to move through your full range of motion, but the bottom is not a part where you want to just fully relax at the end. Okay, so the muscles should still be engaged. You want to make sure that you're still keeping tension and you're controlling the descent on the way down. So you can see on the left-hand side how Tina's shoulders are shrugging and they're very close to her ears, they're almost touching them. You should still be able to get straight elbows without falling into that position. So you can see the picture on the right-hand side, her back muscles and shoulder muscles are still engaged, and you can tell because there is a little gap between her ears and her arms, okay? Hopefully that made sense. If not, we can go over that again. Okay, next up, so this isn't necessarily a mistake, so ignore the big X. It's more so, ideally you want to keep your knees straight when you're doing the pull-up because that will create overall good tension throughout your entire body. If you're a beginner, then that's when you can do pull-ups with your feet crossed. So that's like the image in the middle with the yellow circle. The image on the right-hand side with the feet uncrossed is a position where you are able to technically have the most tension created from your core muscles. So this is recommended for individuals who are more intermediate or advanced with their pull-ups. Hopefully you guys will get this next video. So another one. T and I were poking some fun with this the other day. So hopefully you guys can pick up. What do you think Tina could change so she can get the most benefit out of this pull-up exercise? There we go. Got it right away. Thank you. Is it Isla? I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Good job. No cheating. Good. So getting full range of motion. Perfect. Again, in order to get the most strength benefits from doing the pull-up, exactly, you want to make sure that you are engaging your muscles through the entire range of motion rather than just half repping it. Again, you don't just do mini bicep curls like this and expect to get bigger biceps and stronger. So same thing applies to your pull-ups. Make sure that you're fully straightening them, your elbows, and bringing your chest all the way up to the bar at the top position. Again, use these tips as guidance because your positioning at the top might change based on your anatomy. So if you have very, very long arms, let's say relative to your torso, it actually might be harder for you to get your chest to the bar. But that's just a little side note, okay? I got one last quiz question for you guys. You're doing great so far. Let's get 2 out of 3. Make me proud. So what's one thing that Tina could improve on in this video?
Oh, let's check out the video.
Is everything an answer?
There you go. Oh.
I tried to exaggerate it a little bit.
There we go.
Do you have stairs that we don't know about?
Okay. Momentum there. Yeah, Tina's swimming. Okay, good job. So again, you could see in that video that there was a lot of leg motion and body swinging. So ideally try your best to stabilize your core and legs. And essentially this means no swinging or cheating using momentum, again, unless you're doing kipping pull-ups. In terms of leg and body positioning. So there is technically no right way to do it, but there are 2 different variations that you may choose just based on your own preference. So the first one is opting for a more hollow hold position, which is the image in the middle. And this will help engage your core and abs a little bit better. The second one is keeping more of a neutral or straight, even a slightly arched low back, like the image on the right hand side, and this will help engage your back muscles a little bit better. If you try both, you'll actually probably notice that doing the second one, so the one where your legs are pointing straight down to the floor, is a little bit easier. And this is because that spine alignment allows our big back muscles, mainly our lats, to fire in a more optimal position. Okay. So let's quickly just go over everything that we went through and watch a beautiful video of Tina doing 10 out of 10 pull-ups.
Debatable.
So again, first off, starting with a good grip position with your hands slightly wider than shoulder width apart, maintaining a solid and stable body, whether that's more hollow hold or legs pointing straight down, with your feet ideally uncrossed. And again, keeping your neck straight and pulling the bar towards your chest, since this will help keep your mid and upper back straighter. Squeezing, your shoulder blades down and together at the top part. And then as you come down, fully straighten your elbows and letting your shoulder blades move apart. And then when you come back up, starting that movement with your mid back, not your neck. Okay, so again, performing any type of exercise with, again, not so great technique is kind of like driving your car in the wrong direction. And yes, I'm going with this analogy. So the further that you drive, or the more that you continue doing the exercises with the same incorrect technique, the longer it will take you to backtrack and get onto that right road. So instead of doing 50 pull-ups with poor technique, it would be better to do, let's say, 5, and then build your way back up. So yes, this might hurt the ego temporarily, but it will build more strength and robustness in the long run, and you will be able to break any plateaus, okay?
The best analogy I've ever heard, to be honest.
Thank you. I think I heard someone laughing in the background, but that is okay.
Me.
So again, some of you are probably wondering what's the difference between a pull-up and a chin-up. My sister did not know this the other day, bless her soul, but that is okay. So pull-up is essentially what we've just been reviewing, and that's when your hands are facing away from you. You normally have a wider grip, and it biases a little bit more of your back muscles. On the other hand, we can go over Chin up. So let's pull up the chin up video. The difference is that with the chin up, you bias more of kind of the anterior chain muscle. So more of your biceps and arms. And typically you have a slightly more narrow grip. So it's around shoulder width apart for this one. And you do keep an underhand position with your hand. So your palms are facing towards your face. Okay. Look at that, absolutely beautiful. Biceps for days, Tina. That's enough of me talking. We can go to Tina now.
Okay, let's talk more about regressions. So I've numbered them 1, 2, 3 for those who don't know how to do their first pull-up yet. So this goes from easiest to hardest, although this is not just a one straight line. If you're trying to get your first pull-up, I highly recommend doing all 3. So let's look at the scapular pull-up first. I'm gonna bring up the video. Okay. So a scapular pull-up is really trying to strengthen your mid and low back. As you can see here, I am setting myself up for the starting position of a pull-up by making sure that my ears are away from my shoulders. So this sets you up for the starting position when you want to pull yourself up, because if you were to pull yourself up from the shrug position, then that will engage your neck muscles, and then that would start your pull-up in not the best way that you can possibly do, and potentially can lead to injury. Next, let's look at negatives and holds. Okay, so in terms of, we'll start with holds first. If you're a very beginner, I recommend you jumping off from an elevated surface, whether that's a bench or whatever, and then just holding into this position and learning to engage your back muscles, squeezing your shoulder blades at the top. You can hold it for as long as you like, just so you're familiar with the top position and also builds up strength. Now, again, to integrate, you want to integrate negatives into your pull-up routine. So you want to, they're really hard, you can see me shaking. So you really want to slowly lower yourself down. And when you want to get back up, instead of actually doing a pull-up, which probably you can't, you want to go on an elevated surface and then jump right back up, like I'm doing over here. Well, I didn't really jump, but you should jump. And then lower yourself down like this. And negatives is probably one of the best things that you can do to try to get your first pull-up, because it strengthens all of those muscles in the best way possible while keeping all the tension that you need. Lastly, we're gonna look at the banded assisted pull-ups. Now, I guess this shouldn't be new to a lot of people, but it might be a new to few. So basically what you wanna do before I start the video is you want to have the band around your feet if you can. I mean, if you are doing a pull-up at home, it might be a little bit difficult because of the height of the pull-up bar. But ideally, if you're in a gym, I would like you to put the band around your feet so that you can create that proximal tension that Nava was talking about earlier. And then what you do is you just lift yourself up. This will be the best bang for your buck, but you want to incorporate this with all the negatives that you should be doing as well. And basically, when I was starting to learn my first pull-up, I did all 3, and I was able to get my first pull-up in a month. But I'll tell you more details about how I did that kind of in the end of the, near the end of the pull-up webinar, because I have some examples of programming that you can be doing, including for those who are kind of trying to break up that pull-up plateau. Okay, so let's look at mobility requirements. Now, mobility is not a big thing when it comes to pull-ups, but it does make a difference if you want to get your best bang for your buck, mostly because your mid-back and lat mobility. So I actually want everyone to get up right now and try this screen. It's a wall angel screen. So if you have a nice flat wall, I want you to scoot over. I won't be able to look at the chat box, so maybe Nava can let me know. And I want you to scoot over and put your back flat against the wall, but you're sitting down with your knees bent. And then I want you to get your elbows at 90 degrees, like I'm showing in this picture here. And I want to know how many of you guys are able to put your back flat against the wall. I'll give you a few seconds to kind of try that out, and then you can prop that in the chat box and Nava can tell me if anyone's saying anything. I hope you guys are trying it. Does anyone have difficulty putting their back against the wall?
couple people are able to do it.
Okay, cool. Okay, so if you have difficulty putting your back against the wall, this likely means that you have stiffness in your mid to upper back. Why is that important? Well, if you're going at the top of the position of a pull-up or a chin-up, you're more likely to shrug at the top position because you're not able to extend your back. Now, if you're an office worker, this is pretty common. I see it all the time to have a stiff mid back because you're sitting in more likely a slouch position all day. If your upper arm is not able to be touched on the wall, it is likely that you may have tight pecs. Now, this is not a big deal when it comes to pull-ups. So let's look more at the lats. If your hand is not able to touch the wall, it is likely that you have tight lats. Now, why does lats matter and why does the flexibility of lats matter? Well, that's more because in a chin-up, you have to fully come down into the position to get the full range of motion. If you have tight lats, that will restrict you. So this is just the second picture, is just more an advanced version to see how your flexibility is in your pecs, your lats, as well as your mid back. Okay, so these are kind of solutions or potential solutions to kind of help with any of the above inflexibilities that you may have. One being is if your back is stiff based on the screen, you can do a thoracic extension over roll. So basically what you can do is get the foam roller and place it maybe a little bit below your shoulder blade and having your bum scoot, and you can cross your legs or you may not too. It's completely up to you, but you want to protect your neck and then just extend over the foam roller. Now you want to hold this for about 10 seconds and you should really feel a stretch in your mid to upper back. You can roll the foam roller up or down depending on where you feel it feels the best for you. This is great for office workers alike. You can also do this just if you felt like you have tight pecs based on the screen, just use a lacrosse ball release, place it onto the tight areas of your pecs and just bring your arm in elevation. You can do this on the wall or on the ground. Now, if you have tight lats, you can do two of these exercises. The first one is banded lat distraction. Now, with this exercise, you don't want to pull the band, you want the band to pull you. That's why it's this distraction. I more so recommend you doing this exercise after doing pull-ups or chin-ups because you don't want it to affect your ability to engage those muscles if you're stretching them. Secondly, you can do chin-ups negatives. Now, not only will this strengthen your upper back and make chin-ups a little bit easier for you to attain, but it'll also increase flexibility of your lats because negatives or eccentrics can increase the muscle length. So I'll just do a quick demo over here of how you would do it. Same concept as the pull-up negatives, but you just lower yourself down like this. And as you can see at the very end, I have good lat flexibility because I stop at the very end right over here rather than right over there. Okay. So let's talk about accessory strength work. I don't think this gets enough fame because I think it's really, really important to be doing as a beginner, as an advanced athlete, as an intermediate. If you want to get more pull-ups or you're trying to get your first pull-up, you better be doing more strengthening exercises for your mid to upper back because doing pull-ups itself may not be enough. So let's talk about it. So I added a gym routine as well as at-home alternative for those who are still keen to do their strengthening exercises so that when they're getting back at the gym, they can do their own pull-ups, or if you have a pull-up at home, you can start these right away. So at the gym, I'm sure everyone have seen a lat pull-down machine. The only difference here is that I want you to be in a kneeling position so that you're still creating that proximal tension in your glutes and your core, similar to a pull-up, to make it as transferable as possible. In the middle picture, it's the same concept, except instead of having your elbows bent, it's straight down. At-home alternative, you can use a dowel or a broomstick and tie it around a resistance band that's above you. And you just want to do the similar, as you can see the similarities here and here. You want to pull it down and engage your lats here. I recommend doing unilateral exercise. So exercise is meant for strengthening of one side of your body. Now, this is great if you have any strength deficits from left to right, but also if you have any injuries, you want to do this as well. So I'm going to bring up a video. Let's do this one first. So this is a good one to do. it's really simple concept, making sure that the band is above you and you're really just pulling it and you're squeezing your lats, and you want to make sure that your elbow is behind your body when you're bringing it down. I'm going to bring the other alternative, is the last video, is similar to lat pull down using the dowel. You don't need to use a dowel, just use a resistance band if you don't have any broomsticks handy around you. And I actually use both of these strategies all the time because I don't have a lat pull down machine at my gym, my home gym, and they've actually helped wonders for strength. Okay, let's talk about inverted rows. Now, inverted rows strengthens your all of your muscles of your back, basically, because you're squeezing your shoulder blades together. So at the gym, you can do it with a barbell. And to make this harder, you can put your legs on an elevated surface so that all that force and tension is harder for your back muscles. For an at-home alternative, now only do this if your table is sturdy, because obviously you want to be safe, but this is a good at-home alternative to strengthen your mid-back and do inverted rows at home. There are bent over rows as well, pretty self-explanatory, except that you're strengthening all of your muscles, as you can see in this picture here, your core, your glutes, your quads, everything. This is a great muscle burner. At-home alternative is using a resistance band, placing it below your feet, and basically bringing your shoulder blades together. Now, we will be posting a video, the YouTube video, after this webinar is over, so you'll have access to all of these exercises. Don't forget about shoulder stability, okay? It's really important because shoulder stability is required when you do pull-ups, believe it or not. People think it's just the back exercises, but you do need stability so that you're not compensating. These are two great exercises. It's actually two of my favorites. The first one is shoulder rotations at 90 degrees. So you can be in half kneeling using a resistance band, and basically you're at 90 degrees from your body. And you want to make sure that your elbow is kind of on an axis and you're rotating around the axis, right? Back and forth. And then there's a bottoms up kettlebell hold, or you can do presses, doesn't matter. Kettlebells are so versatile. One of the best things that you can buy is a kettlebell, in my honest opinion. Okay, grip strength, farmer walks or farmer carries, or dead hangs. So as you can see in this picture in the middle, we'll talk about dead hangs first because they're probably the most transferable when it comes to grip strength. So you just want to basically hang on a pull-up bar, and you just want to stay there for as long as you can. These are actually really hard. If you feel like one of the limiting factors with your pull-ups is your grip strength because you keep slipping, this is probably something that you want to do. You can also do farmer carries using kettlebells, making sure that the kettlebell is away from your body, because it strengthens not only your core, but also your grip strength. And just that strengthens grip strength. This also increases your grip strength. This is an at-home alternative. You can see the carryover. It's very similar, except you can do this on your way to the grocery store or on the way back. The only difference is making sure that the grocery bag is not attached to your body. So you're making sure you're using your core and you're using your grip muscles like this. Core stability, don't negate core stability because it's really important to create that proximal tension so that you are able to basically use your arms as a lever. So at the gym, you can do, these are all examples, by the way, not the only way, but this is an option, doing a hanging leg raise hold, so just holding it like this gentleman over here. Or you can do at-home alternative using hollow rocks or hollow holds, so creating that proximal tension, as you can see over here. These are actually really difficult, but it's very good exercise for your core. Okay, let's talk about example pull-up routine. I'm going to talk about one for the beginner as well as one for the intermediate to advanced athlete. So if you want to get your first pull-up, these are examples of a program that you can do. Emphasize negatives, 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 as you can see here. Very, very important to build strength as a beginner, as well as honestly, any athlete, you should always be doing negatives. So what that really means is you want to slowly go down from the pull-up bar, from the top position, 8 to 10 seconds down, doing as many sets as you can, making sure that you're resting appropriately. Now, if you don't rest I would, maximum rest should be 2 minutes though, because that can affect your strength gains, but 1 to 2 minutes is probably a good aim, good target. Try to progressively overload. You will, as a beginner, probably have newbie gains, but when it becomes a little bit harder, when you're pretty close to getting that pull up, you want to emphasize this more. So you want to increase your volume, reps, or sets. There's so many ways to progressively overload. You can increase the slow the negatives down a little bit more. You can decrease the rest, and you can decrease the resistance band when you're doing banded assisted pull-ups. The other thing that has worked wonders for me is if you see a pull-up bar, just do pull-ups, banded assisted or not banded. Obviously, if it's 0 to 1, you don't have a pull-up yet. But the more repetitions that you have under your belt, the better you'll be at pull-ups, and the more likely you'll be able to do a pull-up. The other thing is you want to just get stronger. Make sure to do your accessory work. Strengthen your back, strengthen your lats, strengthen your core, everything we discussed above. The reason why I talked about accessory work is because I truly believe it is so important. Okay, let's talk about advanced or intermediate athlete, how to build up pull-up endurance and break up that pull-up plateau. This is difficult, I'm not going to lie, but there are ways to kind of get around it. But this is not only building up strength, it's not only strengthening or increasing strength, you also want to increase endurance. But getting stronger is a must and most important. So this is just an example of things that you can do to break up that pull-up endurance. So you want to incorporate a heavy day. You want to make sure that you add some weight to your pull-ups so that there is some resistance and you're progressively overloading. Do 45 sets, 1 to 3 reps for the heavy day. Again, these are just examples. You want to incorporate a moderate day. So just moderate weight, 3 to 4 sets, maybe 60% or 50% of your 1 rep max, 5 repetitions. Endurance day. Now this is so important because you're not only building strength, you also want to build up endurance, right? So here, no weights, 5 to 6 sets, less rest, right? To build up endurance, you don't want rest. You want to reduce the rest. And you want to have enough sets to get, I mean, this is a ballpark, 50 repetitions total. It really depends on how many pull-ups you can do in general. But for example, if you can do 10 pull-ups, 50 repetitions is probably a good target to aim for. Change your variations of pull-ups. I've noticed that when I started doing wide grip pull-ups, which increases strength of my lats more or biases my lats more, my narrow grip pull-ups have become a piece of cake. It became so much easier just by doing more wide grip pull-ups. So you want to change your variation. Don't just stick to one type of pull-up, even if the other pull-ups are harder. Challenge yourself. You want to add power. This is just an example. You can if you can't, but I've noticed for myself, this also helps a lot. Explosive pull-ups with a full range of motion. And to emphasize power, you want to make sure that you rest for 10 seconds between repetitions, not sets. And continue doing your negatives in your programming. So that means, for example, any of these weights, you can do, for example, I'm going to give an example, 5 repetitions of pull-ups and doing 3 seconds on the weight down. That itself is a negative and it will strengthen your upper back. Okay, as a disclaimer, these tips obviously do not necessarily apply to everyone. It does depend on the experience of you as an individual, your injuries, and your level of fitness. So given this, if you are experiencing any pain at all during pull-ups, it is best to see your local healthcare provider for a thorough assessment, or you can come ahead and see me in Nava. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. As a special gift to you, all those that registered and attended this webinar will get 20% off their initial assessment at Foundation Physio if you sign up by March 5th. And here is the code. It's webinar 20. Yes. Okay. So I have provided my contact information as well as Nava's contact information. If you have any questions, provide my Instagram as well as my email, as well as Nava's Instagram and email. If you have any questions after the webinar and you have a preference for which communication platform you prefer to use. Also included our Foundation Physio page, our linking page if you want to book an appointment with either of us. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. And if you have any questions, go ahead and prop that in the chat box below. I'm going to stop this screen.